Former President Donald J. Trump, the J is for jackass, announced on Truth Social that he is going to be arrested and charged for a third time. And this doesn't even count the very likely fourth time that is also going to happen. I will get to that in a bit. And then later on in this video, I will get to a clip from the GOP leader, Kevin McCarthy, and what he was saying back after January 6th versus what he's saying now about Trump. It's very interesting. First here, this is his announcement on Truth Social. It is stupidly long as usual. I'm not going to read all this because like, why would I? It's the same garbage he has said a million times. It's very boring. If you want to read his full statement, I will link to this below the video under sources on YouTube. I will just read, I guess, the important parts here. So he posted this, let's be clear, at 9:21 a.m., July 18th today, saying, "Wow. On Sunday night while I was with my family, having just arrived from the Turning Point event in Florida, where I won the straw poll against all other Republican candidates with 85.7%, with all polls showing me leading in the Republican primary by very substantial numbers. Almost everyone predicting that I will be the Republican nominee for president." And gee, this is the longest run-on sentence. "And as I am leading Democrat Joe Biden in the polls by a lot, horrifying news for our country was given to me by my attorneys. Deranged Jack Smith, the prosecutor with Joe Biden's DOJ, sent a letter. Again, it was Sunday night. I'm not sure why that's so important here," stating that I'm a target of the January 6th grand jury investigation and giving me a very short 4 days to report to the grand jury, which almost always means an arrest and indictment. Okay. And of course, he goes on, talking about how corrupt they all are and brings up Hillary Clinton again, who hasn't been relevant in 8 years. Just, it's enough. So the important piece here is that he is very likely, once again, going to be indicted. This from the AP, new federal charges on top of existing state and federal counts in New York and Florida, and a separate election interference investigation near conclusion in Georgia, that's the fourth one I referred to earlier, would add to the list of legal problems for Trump as he pursues the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Yeah, he's going to keep running. Even if he somehow ends up behind bars, even if one of these cases conclude and he's sentenced and he's behind, he will do what he can to continue running. Which, I mean, for me is, I think, hilarious. Because if he's in any situation here, it doesn't bode well for a general election. For the primary, sure, he's likely going to win the primary. But for a general election, if he can't legally be on the ballot for whatever reason, maybe once he's behind bars, then he actually can't be on the ballot, then that's going to really tank turnout for Republicans, for whoever is the nominee. Yet if he is on the ballot with all these charges, all these indictments, that's also not going to help him, because you're going to have a lot of people come out to simply vote against Trump, which is, I think, a large part of the reason he lost in 2020. There's a large anti-Trump contingent out there for obvious reasons. So people that maybe aren't even normally that engaged in politics came out to vote, to simply vote against Trump. And I would imagine that's going to happen again if he's on the ballot again in 2024. But a little more here from the AP. Legal experts have said potential charges could include conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstruction of an official proceeding. In this case, Congress's certification of President Joe Biden's electoral victory. And they go on to write here that more than 1,000 people have been accused of participating in the riot, have been charged. So more than 1,000 people have been charged who were in that Jan 6 riot. Yet the ringleader finally might be charged. After all this time, just going to, again, how the idea that there's a witch hunt for Trump, it is the opposite. He is being treated with kid gloves. Imagine any regular Joe did what he has done. That person, that regular Joe would have been behind bars years ago. Yet finally, this man is potentially facing some repercussions for all the laws he's broken. Now, Trump did go on Truth Social to later on write this. This is from 11:43 a.m. in all caps. Witch hunt. Crooked Joe Biden and his Injustice Department want to indict and arrest his presumed political opponent, me, who is leading him in the polls in the upcoming, which, by the way, isn't even true. You can't highlight on Truth Social. That's weird. Interestingly, DeSantis, who is doing terribly in Republican primary polling right now, at least terribly compared to Trump, is doing better against Biden compared to Trump in most national polling. So DeSantis would be a better general election candidate, even though I think he's just as dangerous as Trump is. But he would be a better general election candidate against Biden than Trump currently is. Because my assumption is because there isn't that built-in anti-Trump vote the way there is, there isn't that built-in anti-DeSantis vote the way there is right now for Donald Trump. And DeSantis is a lesser known quantity. I'm sure if you're watching my channel, you're watching other political stuff, you're reading stuff, you're very well aware of DeSantis. But the vast majority of people are not that engaged, don't know all that much about him, have the potential to be fooled by someone like that. And because of that, he has a greater potential to grow his support. Meanwhile, Trump, we all know who Trump is. It doesn't matter if you're, who you are, what you do, how little you pay attention to politics, Donald Trump. So there's a much different built-in anti-Trump vote for him. But anyways, continuing on this message, who is leading him in the polls in the upcoming presidential election. Such a thing has never happened in our country before. And in the middle of the campaign, election interference and prosecutorial misconduct. Okay. Again, I don't need to explain how Trump is finally facing some repercussions for everything he has done. Let me get to McCarthy. So because this is fairly fresh news, breaking news, there has been very little reaction so far, but McCarthy was asked about it. Again, GOP leader. And I want to show you what he's saying today versus what he said after January 6th.
Well, I guess under a Biden administration, Biden America, you'd expect this. If you notice recently, President Trump went up in the polls and was actually surpassing President Biden for re-election. So what do they do now? Weaponize government to go after their number one opponent. It's time and time again. I think the American public is tired of this. They want to see equal justice, and the idea that they utilize this to go after those who politically disagree with them is wrong. The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding. These facts require immediate action by President Trump. Accept his share of responsibility, quell the brewing unrest, and ensure President-elect Biden is able to successfully begin his term.
So, today McCarthy is saying, this is a weaponized attack against Biden's number one opponent. Yet, after Jan 6, which is what this new indictment is supposed to be about, McCarthy saying the President Trump bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack, for the Jan 6 attack. These people are also corrupt, also disgusting. I can't wait for this next indictment to come down. And then very likely the one in Georgia, the fourth one, will also come down. Will any of these cases, will any of this sentencing conclude before the general? I think is the biggest question. But regardless, I don't think it changes what Trump's going to do. As long as he is legally able to be on the ballot for as long as he can, and that counts in the primary and the general election, he is going to be involved. Let's see how far he can take this.